Tonight, the council's fighting the expansion of ULEZ in court. In a blow to the mayor, 5 councils are launching a judicial review of Sadiq Khan's decision to make more polluting vehicles pay.
I'm really hoping that the judge calls the mayor to order in the same way as actually everyone else is saying.
Also ahead, the driver of this Range Rover, which crashed onto tube tracks, pleads guilty to causing death by dangerous driving, but a survivor offers her forgiveness. The apparently elderly men who robbed a jeweller's, why all is not what it seems in this picture. Farewell to a fashion icon at Dame Vivienne Westwood's memorial, and
we're on the blue carpet waiting for Hollywood royalty. Michael Douglas, Paul Rudd will be right here and we'll be talking to them live.
Good evening. This time last night, the mayor was on the programme pushing back against his growing list of critics, calling them a vocal minority. Well, in the last few hours, some of them have decided they won't just use their voices, they'll try to use the law in the fight against Sadiq Khan's decision to expand the ULEZ zone to outer London. 4 London boroughs and Surrey have launched a judicial review into how the controversial decision was reached. Our political correspondent Simon Harris has the latest developments.
Sadiq Khan was re-elected in 2021 on a promise to expand the ultra-low emission zone. 5 months later, true to his word, the ULEZ embraced all roads inside the north and south circulars. But his attempt to extend the zone to all of Greater London has provoked a huge backlash. His critics claim he ignored the results of a public consultation. Baroness Teresa O'Neill is the Tory leader of Bexley Council, one of 4 outer London boroughs, along with Surrey, which today launched a High Court challenge.
I'm really hoping that the judge calls the mayor to order in the same way as actually everyone else is saying. You know, frankly, we had a mandate at the election last year in Bexley, so we've got a democratic support. We know that the consultation and what happened with that, everyone is saying to the mayor, this is not the right answer.
In another development, a Conservative peer urged the government to change the law to force the mayor to take into account the views of outer London boroughs. Lord Moylan, who advised Boris Johnson during his City Hall days, has tabled an amendment to the government's Levelling Up bill.
Well, my amendment applies not just to London, but to the whole of the country, in places where they've got elected mayors and regional government. And what it says is that if you want to introduce road charging schemes, then you should actually have the boroughs, the local authorities in your area, on side.
Sadiq Khan said he wasn't surprised a former advisor to Boris Johnson was trying to halt the ULEZ extension.
Boris Johnson had a report that showed more than 400 schools were in areas where the air was unlawful, and Johnson and Moylan did nothing about it. So I'm not surprised they want to delay action. But if they delay action, it means that we carry on with around 4,000 people dying prematurely because of air quality.
Sadiq Khan believes he has a compelling argument about the health of Londoners, but is it cutting through?
The mayor now faces growing cross-party opposition to his plans. This week, 4 Labour MPs in London publicly called on him to postpone the scheme because of the cost of living crisis.
And then there was this intervention from Boris Johnson himself.
And stop this mad lefty tax on people's lives and livelihoods.
Hera, who works for the climate change charity Possible, was unimpressed.
It sort of speaks to kind of this sort of culture war that he's trying to feed into, and I think there's an element of desperation there. You know, ULEZ is undeniably a good thing for all Londoners.
Sadiq Khan has described ULEZ opponents as a vocal minority, but it's a minority that seems to be getting louder.
Simon, then back to the judicial review. Just how big a development is that?
It's certainly a dramatic development. The 4 councils, Bexley, Bromley, Harrow and Hillingdon, along now with Surrey, have been waiting to hear from a senior barrister at KC whether he thinks they have a case. Well, that legal advice has now come back and they've submitted their papers to the court. There's always the possibility that this might not go ahead. The judge could throw it out. We haven't heard from Sadiq Khan on this latest development, but it is possible if it goes to a hearing that it might force him to delay the introduction of the ULEZ planned for the end of August.
OK, Simon, thank you. The driver of a car which crashed onto tube tracks, killing a woman, has pleaded guilty to causing death by dangerous driving. Rida Kazem suffered severe injuries, including losing a leg, but one of his passengers, Yamur Ozden, died on impact. Her friend, who survived the crash, said despite the grief and pain since that day last August, she has forgiveness. It also puts to rest allegations she has faced online about her involvement. A warning Sam Holder's report starts with footage from the night of the crash.
It was a moment of reckless driving with catastrophic consequences for three friends. Rida Kazem was driving at 110 miles per hour, double the speed limit, when he lost control. His Range Rover ending up on the tracks at Park Royal Station. Yamur Ozden, on the left, was 33. She died at the scene. On the right, Zam Arif was injured. The pair had been given a lift by their friend after their car broke down. 23-year-old Rida Kazem, who lost his leg in the crash, pleaded guilty to causing death and serious injury by dangerous driving. Zam was sat next to him in the passenger seat when they crashed. Today, he was sat in the dock, and she says she forgives him.
Just seeing him in that state, it just breaks my heart.
So you actually feel sorry for him?
Well, it's not something he intentionally did, you know. This could be anyone. It could have been anyone in his place. So obviously my heart does go to him and my heart does go to Yamur, but I can't change what's happened.
I spoke with Zam last year. She'd been targeted by trolls. Rumours were being spread that somehow she was actually the driver of the car. Rumours that have now been put to rest.
I was cyberbullied. I was threatened by I don't know who, fake accounts. But honestly, I'm just happy that it's come out and everyone's at ease now. And the people who have, blamed me for such things, I forgive them as well. But, heat of the moment, people are upset.
Rida Kazem had 2 previous speeding offences. He'd been banned for driving 95 miles per hour in a 50 zone, a ban which ended just 2 months before the fatal crash. At Park Royal Station, you can still see the damage. The Range Rover had been travelling on the A40, and it had hit such high speeds that when it crashed, it flew through the barriers there and all the way across through this fence and onto the tracks. The crash here in August involved 3 friends. One lost her life, another has serious injuries, and the third now faces years behind bars. Rida Kazem will be sentenced on the 21st of April. Sam Holder, ITV News.
In the last hour, the RMT union has announced a fresh wave of rail strikes after failing to reach an agreement with Network Rail and train operators. Jay Akbar is at Victoria Station for us now. Jay, take us through this announcement.
Hi, Duncan. Yeah, that's right. More strikes, and again, seemingly no end in sight to this ongoing dispute over pay and conditions. And as you quite rightly said, RMT members at 14 companies, we've just learned in the last hour, will strike on the 16th, 18th and 30th of March, and again on the 1st of April, while their members at Network Rail will go on strike on March the 16th and then launch an overtime ban. Now, the RMT says it was forced into making this decision after employers refused to come to the table with a pay offer. Its General Secretary Mick Lynch said the government isn't giving them a mandate to negotiate. So, as it is, more strikes and more disruption for commuters on those dates again, March 16th, 18th and 30th and the 1st of April.
But Jay, turning to something perhaps a little more positive, an attempt today from one rail firm to get commuters back working in the city.
That's absolutely right, Duncan, and how timely as well. Essentially, Govia Thameslink Railway, one of the biggest operators in the country, is offering discounted tickets on the days that travel into London drops off dramatically, Mondays and Fridays. Now, since the pandemic, we've seen the adoption of this core week, where people come in on Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday to the office and then bookend the weekend at home. And what that means is city centre businesses suffer as a result because they haven't got that steady stream of workers in that 5-day week. In fact, that was reflected in the numbers we got from GTR today. So on those middle days, they could see upwards of 250,000 passengers on peak travel times. On Fridays, that drops to 160,000. So what they're trying to do to counteract that is introduce these new advanced single tickets on Mondays and Fridays at peak travel times. How much cheaper will they be? Well, consider that a ticket from Hayward Heath to London Victoria would have cost £46. They would now cost £40. Is that cheap enough to get people travelling into the city when they don't want to and stay at home? Well, we spoke to the commuters earlier today.
All right, Jay, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much. Now, next tonight, how do we solve some of London's biggest challenges? Well, 250 young people have got together to try to come up with solutions. They talked about housing, the cost of living and even mental health, and it was organised by the Mayor's Violence Reduction Unit. They've been speaking to Divya Kohli.
A sea of London's young faces, eager to make a change and to find resolutions to problems they will face in the future. Hosted by the Violence Reduction Unit, 250 youngsters came together at the London Stadium. They debated issues like crime, safety, communities and housing. London is one of the most expensive places to rent and buy. This group is already anxious about how they will afford their future home.
All these pressures of the economy are coming onto us, then it's becoming a more distraught situation. There's less hope, there's less aspiration. There's people, I heard my friend, she even said that her aspiration for life isn't to become successful. Her goal for life is mainly financial stability.
So that real holistic view of things, and actually things like the anxiety and how people feel like that now they can't choose any career and expect to get a house. They have to make big decisions throughout their life, like now I need to go and get this specific job, otherwise there's no chance I'll be able to afford things like a house.
Former West Ham and England striker Carlton Cole joined the sessions. He's part of the West Ham Foundation and is now a mentor, hoping to assist the next generation.
And the future doesn't look bright for our youngsters. I'm going to tell the truth. It's not like when I was growing up, I had loads of resources around me, I had the support network around me. But a lot of people are suffering out there at the moment, and that's just the way it is. So we've got to try and make sure that the kids that are growing through for their future, that we try and help as much as possible.
Young Londoners felt proud to be part of a programme that could one day shape their own future.
By networking and by communicating with people of higher powers, we can get our voices across and our opinions across so that we can, be the change that we want to see in the world.
Being able to hear people speak and people who don't come from the same background as me and hear about their experience, what they've been through. I think putting faces to these situations, thinking about it like practically, I think, it's definitely eye-opening.
Today's plans will be shared directly with the Mayor to help his response to the big challenges facing the capital. Divya Kohli, ITV News.
Now, a reminder, no matter how clever the disguise, you can't hide from DNA. In September 2021, two elderly gents walked into a jeweller's on Epping High Street armed with a hatchet and a knife. They threatened terrified staff, tying one to a chair, stealing a £15,000 Rolex. They got away, but then a few weeks later, a car was stopped on Canvey Island and police found this in the boot. Two full-face latex masks and clothing identical to those worn during the robbery. The suspects were actually brothers George Murphy Bristow and Benjamin Murphy, aged 28 and 37. Inside the masks, the detectives found saliva DNA linking them to the crime. Both have been found guilty of robbery and jailed for 13 years and 18 years. Still to come on the programme. Remembering one of the capital's most successful designers, the stars say farewell to Dame Vivienne Westwood. Plus, the race against time for one man determined to visit every single tube station while he can. Now, they are two of Hollywood's leading men, Michael Douglas, Oscar winner, Golden Globe winner, one of the most recognisable actors in the world, and Paul Rudd, star of Clueless, Friends and much, much more. Now the pair are acting alongside each other in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, the latest Marvel movie. Before we join them live, here's a sneak peek.
I can get you home. And give you more time. If you help me. So, what's it gonna be?
Rags, over to you at the BFI.
Well, I'm with two people who need no introduction at all. Michael Douglas, Paul Rudd, thank you so much for joining us on ITV London. There's so much secrecy about Marvel movies. What can you tell us about this one without getting into trouble from the Marvel people?
Ooh, quantum world. Yeah, there's a whole quantum world that's happening in this thing. It's introducing Kang the Conqueror, played by Jonathan Majors. It's the start of Phase 5, right?
Cassie. We also have Cassie.
Catherine Newton is a terrific actress that is playing my daughter.
And then we get to be a little, the usual conflict going on. Really, it's not good enough for my daughter, Hope.
Yeah,
so
he's a tough guy to win over.
You're both Hollywood legends. Michael Douglas.
Well. One of us.
He's close.
But from Romancing the Stones and like Clueless, Shakespeare in the Park, you wouldn't put you two initially, like the central casting role is not obviously superheroes.
Right.
Is that, have you still got used to that yet, or
is he trying to
how's
tell
it
you
feel
something?
to be a superhero?
Clearly, yeah.
I think he's a superhero.
Oh, I think you're a superhero.
I think casting.
I think that you make sense in this world, but it is true. We kind of both signed up, and we had never had any real experience with this.
But you know what? We both like to get small.
That's true.
That's
absolutely true. So I think in that regard, we really lucked out.
You both look very small and still so youthful. I mean, you look like you've just finished filming Clueless. You look,
Watch it now. Watch it.
Young. What's the secret to this eternal youth? Go on, give us.
How about you
sound so young?
How about you like your work? I realize how blessed we are. We love this. People talk about retire. When are you going to retire? So why would you want to retire? You kind of love what you're doing.
That's true. We both really love what we do. Yeah, and that's it.
And you have breaks. You're on, you're off.
Something else you really love: Kansas City Chiefs. You were at the Super Bowl on Sunday. They won.
He was there.
He was there. I know.
What a thrill!
What's your favourite London team, though? We play football, the proper football, not like your football.
Yeah.
Do you have a London team?
I don't really have a London team
I have a London vibe.
Yeah, I mean, I like
a London feeling.
There are players that I really like, but I don't. I watch the Prem if it's on, depending on which match.
Support Chelsea then. No, that's your team now.
You're talking about football.
You're
talking about rugby. I think about rugby.
That's true. That's what I like right. You're talking about the London vibe. You've been there a few days. What's the London vibe? What do you love about London?
I always have a wonderful time here. I was able, on our film, we were working here for 7-8 months last year. Gorgeous time. Yeah. It was a dry summer. You all remember that dry summer we had. And so what's that like? We come on back and wonderful old-fashioned reception, kind of a movie premiere. I mean, it's becoming an endangered species.
True.
Can't see them anymore. And
I know. Here we are. We had a premiere. Yeah, it's going to be on a big screen.
And we all like each other. It's a nice, when you do, this is like Quantumania is the third one, and everybody knows each other. It's got a large family, and it's good.
Paul, what do you love about London?
Well, I probably wouldn't be Chelsea. Would not really be my squad. Sorry about that. That would not be my first choice. But I love this city. It's one of the greatest cities in the world. I've been coming here my whole life. I'm a citizen here. I have dual citizenship. My parents are both born in London. Yeah. Wow. So this is home away from home for me.
You were talking about the strangeness of being in a premiere. Marvel movies are kind of saving. This is the 21st Marvel movie. They're kind of saving cinema. Do you think it's important that people still go to cinema?
Well, absolutely. So the 21st is like
21st, I think.
Films or premiere?
21st Marvel movie.
No, they're close to 40.
Oh, they?
I think it's 30. Is it
past 30? They're close. They're close.
Somewhere in the middle. It's getting people in the cinemas, though.
Yeah, of course. Movies. It's just that I remember when I first started, and then somebody from New York brought up this thing called video. And I thought it was the end of the movie business. The next thing was the DVDs, right, and all that. So now we got streaming. But yeah, it's very important. I mean, who wants it to be like the opera or ballet or something?
Yeah.
But that's why, right now, these type of films, these, what they call tentpole pictures, and Marvel's been doing so well, and it's a good reason for keeping those theaters open, as well as the horror movies.
Thank you very much. We've got a hand back now.
Okay. We're just having fun.
I know, we're going around talking.
Right, gentlemen, thank you very much. Thank you. The life of Dame Vivienne Westwood was celebrated today with a memorial service at Southwark Cathedral. The great and the good of the fashion world came to pay their respects.
The stars came out to South London for a stylish and sombre farewell. Dame Vivienne Westwood's memorial was designed to make us stop and stare just one more time. Her clothes have always carried a message, particularly at London Fashion Week. This will be the first one without her, but her presence will still be felt.
The safety pin, the ripped T-shirts, slogan T-shirts. There are so many things that Vivienne Westwood as a brand, created. I think her legacy in fashion and actually looking at how you can create more sustainably, the fabrics she used, and championing, classic elegant tailoring alongside these rebellious bits of fun and, pure fashion elements. It just made London fashion such a vibrant scene to have anything with her perspective on it.
Dame Vivienne Westwood was more than a trendsetter. She wanted to change the world through fashion, and getting people to wear second-hand clothes was part of that mission.
This is where you can see my mic. Yeah, this is old. This is like vintage men's horrors that I got from a charity shop.
So this year's London Fashion Week will open with designs from the past.
I think she would just be very much of the, go on, go for it, go for it. And, I think that would be her, she would just support it because she supported, climate justice, and that was her passion, very much so. So she would be behind it.
The proceeds will go to Oxfam and the Disasters Emergency Committee, a legacy that Dame Vivienne Westwood would have been proud of.
I'm a fashion designer and an activist, and this is my career, and each help the other. And it's very, very important to look great if you want to make a point.
The words of Dame Vivienne Westwood there. Now, turning to the weather, and it's all got rather grey out there. Here's James Wright now with the forecast.
ITV London weekday weather is sponsored by Octopus Electric Vehicles. Car, charger and energy.
Hi there, good evening. Rather grey day today, a little bit of a damp start too, and more cloud to come. Over the next few days, we've got all these low pressures heading across northern parts of the UK, guided by the jet stream. The jet stream's actually quite far north, which is nice for us because it keeps us on the mild side of it. So temperatures remaining a few degrees up on where we'd expect at this time of year. Now through the evening and overnight, a few clear spells around before more cloud starts to pile in. Temperatures dipping into single figures, but I think they'll start rising again as we head towards dawn. So these are about as low as the temperatures will get, but I think we'll be back into double figures through breakfast time. As far as tomorrow goes, lots of cloud, but the increase in the wind speed and becoming more gusty is going to help to sort of chop up the cloud a little bit. Whilst the sun's quite low in the sky, it'll give us a few bright spells rather than sunny spells. It will be noticeably breezy, which is a shame because if you could stay in the bright weather, 14 or 15 Celsius will feel pleasant, particularly at this time of year. As far as what happens next, well, we've got another repeat performance really on Saturday. A few bright spells. The wind will drop out a bit, so 14 Celsius, if you can find a bright spell, will feel pretty pleasant. Then, hopefully, a few brighter breaks as we head through the overnight period into Sunday. What that gives us is a bit of a chillier start. So yes, temperatures will be slightly down on Sunday, but I think Sunday is set to be the much nicer day out of the two weekend days with a bit more in the way of brightness and a few sunny spells. Looking ahead to Monday, again, fair amount of cloud around. Wind starts to pick up once again, but like I say, remaining mild as we head into next week.
ITV London weekday weather is sponsored by Octopus Electric Vehicles.
And finally, it is so easy to become fed up with the daily trudge around the tube network that we forget the wonder it provides. Easy, that is, until faced with the prospect of being cut off from so much of what the Underground offers. When Ben Spencer was told he may not be able to walk by the end of the year, he set himself a challenge, visiting all 272 Underground stations. Anna Geary went to meet him.
Ben loves to travel by tube. But the 49-year-old has a rare progressive muscle disease called ataxia.
Being in a wheelchair full-time.
He's been told it's unlikely he'll be able to walk by the end of this year.
And a wheelchair.
Determined to make the most of his mobility now and spread the word on his medical condition, Ben has just finished a test he set himself to visit all 272 tube stations.
By raising awareness and doing this challenge, more people are getting to hear about it, which will mean that people like me, who struggled for 10 to 15 years to get a diagnosis, will be able to get a diagnosis much quicker.
Ben was diagnosed with ataxia last July, but has suffered its symptoms for years. Difficulties with balance, speaking, vision and swallowing are associated with many other conditions affecting the brain and nervous system. So ataxia is often misdiagnosed. It impacts 1 in 50,000 people.
So we reckon about 1,800 people may have ataxia in London, in Greater London.
Knowing he was providing a platform to those facing similar challenges was what kept Ben going. He managed to navigate the network in 5 months. Next, he plans to tackle the tubes in a wheelchair.
I want to raise awareness with people with any disability who can't access a lot of the tube network and who can't access a lot of London very easily. There needs to be more than there needs to be more than 92 tube stations. We need to do better, London, much better.
TfL says that making the transport network more inclusive is a top priority. But Ben pledges to keep pushing on and will only stop when more than a third of tube stations in the capital are step-free. Anna Geary, ITV News.
And that is it. We are back with the latest after news at 10. Mary is here next, though, with the ITV Evening News. But from me and the rest of the London team, thank you for watching and have a lovely evening. Bye-bye.